Greetings, everyone. Capt.GhostAviator here. With about 17 years of global flight instruction under my belt, I'm here to guide you through the absolute intricacies of the DGCA syllabus. Listen, in this masterclass explainer, we're going to build the exact foundational knowledge you need to not just crush your exams, but to genuinely stay safe up there in the skies.
I want you to really let this powerful aviation truth sink in. It sets the absolute discipline and high-performance atmosphere we need to master today's ground school session. We study these physical limits because, honestly, the sky is just terribly unforgiving, and our singular goal today is to ensure you never, ever face that unforgiving nature unprepared.
All right, let's take a quick look at the agenda. We're diving straight into the strict technicalities of the silent killers in the cockpit and how your daily lifestyle multipliers directly impact your fitness to fly. We'll be covering everything from hypoxia all the way down to blood pressure.
Okay, Section 1, welcome to ground school and our master blueprint. Let's set up our core strategy.
Now, every single condition we're about to study is insidious. And by that, I mean it totally sneaks up on you, quietly impairing your judgment way before you even realize something's wrong. Because of that sneaky nature, you have got to be trained to respond with checklist instinctive speed, no hesitation. And hey, for your DGCA exam, mastery of these specific numerical limits and thresholds is absolutely non-negotiable for passing the human performance paper.
As you'll see, altitude threats stack up across a very strict vertical gradient. What does that mean for you in the cockpit? Well, your night vision actually begins to degrade at just 5,000 feet, but marked daytime symptoms, the ones that trigger mandatory action, hit you at 10,000 feet. Pro tip for the exam, memorize this vertical scale perfectly. It's going to help you quickly dissect those tricky combined scenario questions.
Moving on to Section 2, hypoxia, the ultimate threat. This is all about cerebral oxygen starvation. Notice how the body's oxygen delivery chain can break down at 4 entirely distinct points. Here's the kicker. Slapping on a supplemental oxygen mask only helps with the first two, hypoxic and anemic types. To really lock this in for your test, just use the mnemonic HAIH. That's hypoxic, anemic, ischemic, histotoxic, and be absolutely sure to associate ischemic or stagnant hypoxia with high sustained G-forces.
So when marked symptoms pop up above 10,000 feet, you need an immediate, zero hesitation reflex. Step 1, provide oxygen. Step 2, descend below 10,000 feet or the minimum safe altitude. Remember, MSA always takes precedence if it's higher than 10,000. When they test you on this, write these 2 exact steps in this specific order to secure full marks. Don't over-elaborate, just give them the standard operating procedure.
See, because your intellectual and sensory judgment will fail you without you noticing, this drill literally has to become a blind reflex. We call it O down, A down. Oxygen on, altitude down. When you see the scenario on your paper, simply stick to this established drill. No more, no less.
Section 3, carbon monoxide poisoning and hyperventilation, the colorless killer and the overbreathing trap.
Pay close attention to this red 200X. This is a critical safety limit. Your hemoglobin is basically a magnet for carbon monoxide. It absorbs it 200 times more readily than oxygen. Since piston engine exhaust gases can contain up to 9% CO, any cabin heat leak becomes incredibly dangerous very quickly. This 200X multiplier is the absolute most critical regulatory number you must memorize regarding CO poisoning.
Now, diagnosing the threat mid-air requires rapid visual triage of skin coloration. Look at the stark differences here. Hypoxia causes cyanosis, that bluish tint. CO poisoning? That gives you distinct cherry red lips. And hyperventilation presents as pale, clammy skin. A solid rule of thumb, if you're flying below 10,000 feet and symptoms appear, always assume hyperventilation first. Contrasting these 3 skin signs is pretty much a guaranteed probe on your final paper.
If you happen to identify those cherry red signs of CO poisoning, you have to immediately cut off the source. Bam, right into the first 2 steps of the drill. Turn off the cabin heat and get those vents wide open. The mandatory regulatory prevention rule you need to quote here is that fresh air must be circulated at all times whenever cabin heating is in use. Moving to hyperventilation. Low altitude stress causes you to overbreathe, which completely throws off your blood pH by driving out way too much CO2. You've got to consciously intervene to restore that CO2, often by utilizing a paper bag feedback loop. On the exam, they will ask you to state the target breathing rate for recovery. Write down specifically 10 to 12 breaths per minute.
All right, Section 4, smoking.
the altitude penalty. This is essentially a permanent flight performance handicap.
Listen, smoking directly multiplies every single physiological vulnerability we just went over. Smoking just one pack a day knocks down your oxygen carrying capacity by 5 to 8%. That means a non-smoker's 10,000-foot hypoxia threshold, it drops dramatically for someone who smokes. Burn this phrase into your memory. Smoker equals minus 3,000. That places their effective, safe altitude limit at a mere 7,000 feet.
And honestly, the penalties go even further. Nicotine constricts your blood vessels, and the carbon monoxide damages your endothelium. What does that mean for you as a pilot? It leads to earlier G-lock, loss of consciousness under G-forces, and severely degrades your night operations. Memorize these exact 6 impacts quoted by the syllabus using the acronym LBCRID. Lung, breathing, circulatory, reduced G, increased heart attack, degraded night vision.
Next up, Section 5, Alcohol Rules and Metabolism. Beware the masked hangover danger.
Okay, alcohol is metabolized at a very fixed, unchangeable biological rate of 0.015 grams per 100 ml per hour. This is vital to grasp. Chugging coffee, taking a cold shower, popping over-the-counter meds, none of that can bypass your biological clock. All they do is create a super dangerous masked hangover where you feel fine, but you completely lack the internal warning signs of impairment. So forget any statutory 8-hour minimums you might have heard around the hangar. The DGCA absolutely expects the strict blue regulatory procedure, the 24-hour bottle-to-throttle rule.
Now, this 1=2 rule brilliantly illustrates the stacking effect of the cockpit environment. The histotoxic hypoxia caused by alcohol stacks directly on top of the hypoxic hypoxia from altitude. Because of this combo, pilot errors spike significantly at a blood alcohol concentration of just 40 milligrams per cent. Be ready to explain exactly why this 6 grand drinks double stacking occurs on your exam.
Finally, Section 6, Blood Pressure and Fitness, the 120/80 benchmark. At the end of the day, your baseline cardiovascular fitness dictates your ability to withstand occupational stress up there. 120/80 is the normal benchmark for a healthy young adult measured at DGCA medicals. Make sure you know the COVE determinants for your medical physiology questions: cardiac output, obstruction, volume, and elasticity.
Untreated high blood pressure absolutely jeopardizes your flight status. But here's the good news. You actually control 5 of the 7 causes of hypertension. We're talking about things like stress, smoking, and poor diet. Failing a Class 1 medical due to hypertension is highly preventable. The DGCA explicitly defines hypertension as a major cause of unfitness, so be sure you can cleanly differentiate the modifiable factors from the non-modifiable ones, like age and the natural narrowing of arteries.
Let's lock down these final definitions. You really must differentiate the pressure spike from the default resting pressure. High diastolic pressure, that indicates dangerous, permanent arterial stress that never lets up. Remember, D for default, S for spike to secure those critical marks. So as you review this explainer and prep for your exams and your future career in the cockpit, ask yourself this. Are you actively managing these physiological multipliers in your daily life, or are you stepping onto the flight deck already halfway to your breaking point? Master these concepts, fly safe, and I'll see you in the next session.